Solid Snake, for having as few games as he does and despite not showing up in any new games for the last 10 years, is one of the biggest icons in gaming. Some of those games, especially those in the Metal Gear Solid series, are sprawling epics that tell highly involved stories, and Hideo Kojima's work writing and directing for Metal Gear gave him his name in the gaming industry today, while giving him a reputation for telling games stories as though they are movies. In this video, we're not going to be talking about the story of Solid Snake's life, but rather the story of his changing graphical evolution, how one super soldier can change in his looks over time. We'll be referencing his appearance in his 5 appearances in Metal Gear games as a protagonist: Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 4, currently the last game to feature him as a protagonist, and the last known mission of Solid Snake's life. We'll start with his debut title, Metal Gear. Metal Gear was a sprite-based game, and Solid Snake himself would certainly seem to look great even as a blocky collection of pixels. There isn't so much official art for Solid Snake that dates back to his time infiltrating Outer Heaven, but by viewing official artwork of his character, in particular the box art for the game, we can see Solid Snake with a rather conventional haircut for men, and we can also see what Snake looks like before he wore a headband. At this point, there wouldn't seem to be anything particularly iconic about his design. He wears a lot of green clothing, and his facial features are well defined. Hideo Kojima reportedly designed Snake to be an avatar on which the player could easily project themselves. His look and personality were not given much attention, and he only spoke 5 times in the first game. In Metal Gear Solid 2: Solid Snake, we see that Snake has donned his iconic headband, visible in both his in-game sprite and in his transceiver mugshot. His mugshot, the one used in the original release of Metal Gear 2, features a rather worried-looking Solid Snake and keeps in line with the rather nondescript visual portrayal that he had in the previous game, while paradoxically managing not to have much resemblance to that previous portrayal at the same time. Perhaps it's the conundrum of consistently having a look of limited definition. Solid Snake's face is also visible during the intro to the game, and there's not much else to say about it rather than it's in line with the depictions of his character to that point, as if one were simply to search for male soldier on a search engine. It's not going to be until Metal Gear Solid, the franchise's transition to 3D, that Solid Snake becomes a defined video game character with an iconic design. It's the first game to feature a new design employing highly stylized artwork from artist Yoji Shinkawa, who also actually worked on Metal Gear 2. Shinkawa's art style here would become both a personal trademark and a part of the DNA of the Metal Gear games from then on, managing to be both highly stylized and realistic. As for Solid Snake, the design here is what would be personally associated with the character, particularly affirmed by his depiction in both Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Gone are the greens that he used to wear, everything is now blue or gray, from his headband to his sneaking suit. What must also be noted though is the positioning and size of the headband. While in Metal Gear 2 the headband was smaller and stopped well above his eyebrows. In Metal Gear Solid the headband ends right where his eyebrows begin. In artwork, the new art style trades the blockier and softer definitions of his face for something more angular, linear, and dramatic. The general art style of the Metal Gear games from here on out is one of moodiness, in line with the grueling nature and human complexities of war, and the dramatic line flourishes and stoic expressions of Solid Snake are the best at expressing that. The way that Solid Snake's eyes are drawn here reflect that he's a grizzled war hero, one of focus, a mix of sharpness and wariness, and determination, and it's something of a franchise trademark. Metal Gear Solid 2, while led by the new character Raiden, does significantly feature Solid Snake. In official artwork depictions of the character, Solid Snake's hair is more grown out, noticeably, particularly in the back of his hair, which is now grown into a mullet. During sections of the game where the player controls Raiden, you eventually encounter Solid Snake, though at first he's disguising himself. Solid Snake supports his iconic sneaking suit and navy headband in the tanker section of the game that precedes Raiden's appearance, though that tanker section is only a shorter portion of Metal Gear Solid 2. Most of the time when we do see Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 2, he's wearing a United States Navy SEAL disguise. With the mask off from his Navy SEAL disguise, we can see what Solid Snake, assuming the name Iroquois Pliskin, looks like without a headband, though Solid Snake later dons a headband again later in the game. The events of Metal Gear Solid 4 detail Solid Snake's last canonical mission, now known as Old Snake. His look here departs from the design established by Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2. While he still wears his camouflage suit, his face is more worn and aged, lacking the muscular definition that he's had in the previous games. He now wears an eye patch, the Solid Eye, developed by Otacon, to assist him in his tactical espionage missions, though it's destroyed much later in the game. Solid Snake's hair is brightly grayed, and he now sports a mustache. In Metal Gear Solid 2, we see that he grew out his hair, and that design decision was retained in Metal Gear Solid 4, in which he also sports hair of the same length. The new suit that he has in this game is more developed and detailed than the outfit we typically associate with Solid Snake. All in all, his depiction here is meant to stand out from how he's looked so far, capping an end to a lifetime of fighting and accentuating the toll of that life on his body. And that concludes our video on the graphical evolution of Solid Snake. There has not been and will not be a character through which such a particular and heroic story of survival and determination amidst a highly complicated wave of politics and personal motivations will be told again, and it's part of the reason why Solid Snake continues to live on as an icon even after his games and story have concluded. It's not that other characters introduced in the Metal Gear franchise aren't compelling, it's simply that due to his design and the sheer emotional power of Solid Snake's fight for a better future, it's he who obviously lingers on as the most relatable and popular Metal Gear character. How likely is it that you think that Solid Snake will feature again in another Metal Gear game? And how do you feel about that idea? Do you feel excited to see Solid Snake again, or wary about disruptions to the neatness of the existing story that the character has? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.